Alrighty, so it's the day after all of the second leg first round matchup involving MLS team in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. As last night I wasn't able to do it after the final game because I came home relatively late. But that being said, in terms of these free games, we saw one that turns out to be a blowout in the aggregate score. In fact, I didn't even put the aggregate score on this game because, as I said, it turns out to be a blowout. And then one that was definitely an instant classic in terms of the CONCACAF Champions Cup and in terms of like CONCACAF Champions League if you still go by its name, and then one that was kind of decided only because of the away goal rule. But let us begin with the first one, and I'm not going to do timestamp because there's only three games to talk about, and I'll probably go relatively quickly in terms of talk about these two games and then talk about the instant classic that we saw in this one. But in the first one between Orlando City versus Calvary, and I'll say this, even though I know Orlando City easily beat Calvary with a 6-1 aggregate scoreline. I don't think the aggregate scoreline really tells the story of the fact that Calvary, they fought hard in these two-legged affair, and that, especially with the way that any team can easily just lie down and basically decided to not try their best when you're like 3 or 4 nothing down in the aggregate score line. But that's not what Calvary did. They fought hard in a way where I'm actually very glad to see that they at least deserve a goal out of this two-leg affair, and of course making history too of scoring their first CONCACAF Champions Cup goal in their young history. Now in the first half, it looked like a U.S. Open Cup crowd with tons of purple empty seats, and obviously it doesn't help the fact that this game kicked off at 6 o'clock. I have no idea whose idea was it, the fact that they decided to kick this game off at 6 o'clock on a weeknight, because you're not going to guarantee a lot of people attending this game. And also, not to mention, it feels like this matchup was already decided in the first leg. But in the ninth minute, Enrique would hit one right to Carducci before Moriel would hit one right to Carducci in the 13th minute. McGuire didn't play in this one. It was Luis Moriel that play in this game. So this is kind of maybe a preview for Orlando City fans of what Muriel can bring to the table, knowing that McGuire could potentially be sold in the summer transfer window. But in the 15th minute, Kodaducci would deny Muriel as he was in on goal. It was all Orlando early in this one. They were pushing for the opener. Kodaducci then denied Enrique from close range. And then the first shot for Calvary came as Stratford would head it wide in the 26th minute. In the 28th minute, Muriel would put it wide from long range before Enrique had a shot that was right to Kodaducci. Keep in mind, Orlando pretty much start a backup team in this one, knowing the fact that this two-leg affair is already decided. They don't really need to start their starters, knowing the fact that they have a game on the weekend. But in the 35th minute, or actually in the 32nd minute, Enrique shoots one right to Carducci. As I thought, Orlando has tons of possession and tons of shots on goal, but can they put one in? Well, Enrique tried to do so, but he hits one right to Carducci, and we head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. It didn't stay scoreless for long, though, in the second half, as in the 48th minute, Nico Ladero would score for Muriel to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando City. So that's the first goal for Nico Ladero with his new team. Again, it still kind of feels weird that he's wearing purple instead of the ray green that we know of him. And I'm pretty sure if you're a Seattle Sounders fan, you could agree with me on that. But then Bevan would look to answer, but he was denied by Higher in the 52nd minute. We then going through a period of time where not much really happened. But then in the 64th minute, this is where history was made for Calvary, as Meyer Bevan becoming the first Calvary player to score the first goal in their first CONCACAF Champions Cup appearance from Akio to make it 1-1 in this one. But that tie did not stay long, because in the 71st minute, Enrique would score from Ladero to make it 2-1 in favor of Orlando City. What a goal that was from Romero Enrique. I mean, he hits that one so sweetly from outside the box. And then Lille was 3-1 in the 74th minute when Facu Torres puts it into the back of net. The problem was the goal was disallowed for offside, and it seems like the floodgates were open again. It looks like Orlando were looking close to get the third goal, though Akio would hit one right to Stadahire for Diaz would hit one wide from long range in the 80th minute. Again, this is a pucky Calvary team. They don't give up, even though the aggregate score is already at 5-1 in their point. They were looking to try to get themselves an equalizer and at least give them some pride that, hey, we just drew against an MLS team. Unfortunately, it didn't happen because in the 87th minute, Kyle Smith would score from Torres to make it 3-1 in favor of Orlando City, and that would be the final score of this game. As in the end, Orlando win 3-1 in this one, 6-1 overall in the aggregate score. And the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 12 that Calvary has, 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that Calvary has, 5 shots off target compared to 3 that Orlando City has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Calvary has, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Calvary has in this game. And now Orlando gets their chance to get some revenge in the next round because as we talked about when the brackets were released, I know a lot. Orlando is definitely looking forward to that Tigres matchup, especially want to get some revenge against the team that knocked them out last year and came so close of beating them as well. And I'm gonna be interesting to see how they'll do this time because it's one thing to get revenge against Tigres, but yeah, Tigres is Tigres for a reason. They are considered to be one of, if not the hardest team to knock out in this competition, and I'll see what they'll offer in the next round. But at least they took care of business and were very professional in terms of their two-legged affair against Calvary in this one. Now, moving on into the next one is the Philadelphia Union and Saprissa. So, if you're a Union fan, I mean, I gotta ask, I wonder, are you still holding your breath till this day? Well, you probably might not do so, but in these last couple of days, my oh my, Union fans has been gone through a roller coaster of emotion because these last two games that they play has just been some of the craziest action we have ever seen involving an MLS team. And in this game against Saprissa, in a game where I thought they were gonna pull away, like what they did in the last time both of these teams met, it didn't turn out to be that way. In fact, it turns out to be a bit of an instant classic, and that the Union barely hanged on to move on into the next round. Now, in the first half, I just want to mention the coolest commentator in CONCACAF is back at it again, and I believe his name is George Mendes. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, and that I really want him to be an Apple TV commentator or even an Apple TV color commentator because he is a guy that not only he makes some of the coolest reference I've seen a commentator made, but he makes any boring games sounds interesting to see. And it was so crazy that even the Union basically tweeted out that yeah, I'm guaranteed that this commentary he probably had all of these kind of things to say inside his mind before the game started, and he basically threw it all out to a point where my goodness, I mean that is quite insane that I've seen a commentator Taylor makes some of the coolest reference. Like I think one of the example of this is that, as I mentioned about the first shot of the game, Si Bueno hits it right to Chamorro. He basically make a reference that Jesus Bueno means Jesus good, which technically that's kind of true. Or actually, he said Jesus is good because Bueno in Spanish is good. So yeah, I mean, just that was just the beginning in terms of him making just S tier kind of a reference that really just kind of give you a chuckle and also just say, man, this commentator must be on fire in terms of some of the reference that he made. But that being said, speaking of fire, this game was definitely fire because in the 10th minute, a penalty was given to Saprissa after VAR deemed that Elliott brought down East in the box. Yeah, that was the correct call. You can clearly see Elliott brought down East in the box, though we did had a bit of a controversial call involving Jack Elliott a little bit later in this game. But in the 14th minute, Paradella steps up to take the penalty and he buries it. So that made it 1-0 in favor of the Union. Obviously, it doesn't help the fact that, or actually, I'm sorry, 1-0 in favor of Saprissa. And, it doesn't help the fact that they don't have Andre Blake in this game. Oliver Simi was in this game as well, and that yeah, I will say that he actually had a really good game in this one, and in terms of backup sense, he has done a pretty excellent job in the backup job in the absence of Andre Blake. But yeah, that gives Saprissa a 1-0 lead. The Union still has the away goal advantage, but they didn't want to rely on that. They immediately tied it up in the 17th minute as Carranza left picked up where he left off, fresh off a hat trick against Saprissa as he scored from Sullivan to tie the game up at one apiece. Chamorro then denied Gastak from close range, and then in the 26th minute, Quinn Sullivan would score here to make it 2-1 in favor of the Union. Speaking of picked up where a player left off, Quinn Sullivan picked up where he left off after that spectacular performance that he had against the Chicago Fire. And yeah, he got on the score sheet here to make it 2-1. And you're thinking, well, this is going to be a laughter, isn't it? No, because just 2 minutes later, Magico would score to tie the game up at two apiece, and this was not great set piece defending for the Union. I mean, these two-legged affair that the Union have played, I mean, their defense has been bad. I mean, in that first game, we saw what happened in the first half, how they were all over the plays. And even though as they got better in the second half, they did give up a late goal that turns out to be a huge part of why this game was closer. Sir, in this two-legged affair turns out to be an instant classic because now all of a sudden the score was tied up at two apiece, and all of a sudden the aggregate score was still back at just one goal. And now if Saprissa get another goal, then all of a sudden the aggregate score would not only be tied, but this would be the same score line as the previous first leg affair. Chamorro then denied Bueno as the Union was looking to retake the lead, but we do head to halftime with the score tied up at two apiece. In the second half, Union was on the front foot. They were looking to retake the lead and increase the aggregate score back to two. But then in the 62nd minute, this is when Saprissa took the lead and really shocked the crowd at Subaru Park as Torres would score a wonderful free kick goal here to make it 3-2 in favor of Saprissa. And while I thought it was a great free kick goal there from Torres, feel like the wall was not set up properly. I mean, you can clearly see there was a bit of a gap there on that left side of the wall. And give credit to Torres, he probably spotted that. He basically puts that shot there, and that one not only gone past the wall, but also gone past Samir. And all of a sudden, it's a 3-2 lead for Saprissa. And as it stands, or at least at this point, I thought this was going to go straight to penalty, as what we saw before in the CONCACAF Champions League, where if the two-legged attire finished with an identical score, they would go straight to a PK shootout. Spoiler alert, that turns out not to be the case in this one. But there was no doubt that the Union continued to have most of the possession, but they were struggling to penetrate this Saprissa back line like they did in the first half. Though Uru would blast one into the Delaware River in the 74th minute before Martinez would fire one just wide from long range. You know, Jose Martinez does not shy away of firing from long range after scoring a couple of goals last season from that range. But the chances finally started to come for the Union, but can they tie it up and can they regain the aggregate lead? Well, instead, in the 84th minute, Samir had to make a big save here to deny Pora's shot, which took a wicked deflection there. That was a great save there from Oliver Samir, because if that one went in, all of a sudden Saprissa has the 4-2 lead, and they would be the one that is moving on into the next round. And then in the third minute stoppage time, Jack Elliott. So remember how I said that there was a controversial moment involving Jack Elliott? Here it is. So he got a straight red here after he tackled East from behind, and I immediately wrote, looked like the Union got CONCACAF by the ref, because in no way in the world that's a straight red card. Like, if anything, I would say maybe a yellow card because he kind of tackled East from behind, but it's not like he did any studs where it was a reckless challenge. And also, there's no way it's denial of goal score opportunity as well, because there's two Union player right in the vicinity there to track back. So yeah, that was a really surprising decision for the straight red card, and just an example of the fact that yeah, CONCACAF still exists in terms of bad refereeing, and that we've seen before where MLS team gets become the victim of bad refereeing and controversial call, and it feels like the Union got CONCACAF in this moment. So yeah, the game did end it 3-2 in this one, and like I said before, I thought this was going to go straight to PKs because that's how it is before. But it feels like I think they changed the rule where if the game tie into aggregate score and both of the legs are end up by the same score, then they actually instead go to extra time. So we go to extra time in this one, and this is where I started to get concerned of the fact that this game actually starts about 15 minutes after what this game was supposed to end in regulation, and I don't think the CONCACAF organizer or the TV broadcaster at Fox Sports realized that, oh shoot, if this game go to extra time, then yeah, what happened in terms of this game? How the hell do we watch this game? And just to let you know, I wasn't able to watch like the first 30 minutes of this because again, Fox Sports and the CONCACAF organizer didn't realize that. Yeah, oh boy, what if we have this game run a little late? Then we can't really show the other one because we only have one channel to show this game. And by the way, they actually eventually did say that this was on the Fox Sports app. I wasn't able to get it working, so yeah, as I mentioned a little bit, I wasn't able to watch the full game of this. I only watched like 70 or not even 72, but only 62 minutes of this game. But that being said, one thing that the cool commentator also tell us is that there was no away goal rule in effect in extra time, and I'm glad that is the case because the away goal rule. I think there is definitely a discussion that CONCACAF may be thinking about banning it. I mean, we're seeing it with the UEFA Champions League that them banning the away goal rule because it's been kind of an outdated kind of ways to determine two-legged affair, but it wasn't in effect in extra time. So even if Saprissa score another one, that doesn't mean that if the Union ties it, they won't go through because of the away goal rule. But instead, the Union gets themselves the aggregate score back and ties the game up straight away as Mikael Uru, for once, able to show his clinical finishing from Wagner to make it 3-2 in favor or not 3-2, but tie the game up at 3 apiece, and the aggregate score is now at 6-5. And from this point on, this is when the Union basically just shut up shop. Like they just bunker hard in this one. Saprissa not only started to control this game, but the Union, they look like they were just gonna bunker and trying to hold on to this aggregate lead, which doesn't seem like that's the best idea to do so. But at least it kind of worked out in the first half of extra time. That was a little bit different in the second half of extra time, though, because again, despite the fact the Union continued to bunker in, Saprissa was starting to really put the heat on this Union back line. Rodriguez would go on his bike, but he missed wide there. In fact, Saprissa had a big opportunity in the first 3 minutes of the second half of extra time as Kendall Waston was in on goal here, but Oliver Samir doing his best Andre Blake impression, robbing him on a 1v1 opportunity. And this, of course, is before Rodriguez goes on his bike, but just missed that one wide. We had some coming together between both teams in the 170 minute because again, it's been a very competitive game up to this point. Rodriguez then struck the post, but then it recycled back to Guzman, and he struck the post in the back post, and then somehow it still ended up to Kendall Waston, and he puts it into the side netting before a whistle was sounded. And I think at that moment, I'm pretty sure every Union fans probably had their heart stopped at least 3 times. I mean, again, butt clenching must be at an all-time high for Union fans because right now it is CONCACAF after dark in full force. Like there's just crazy things that started to happen, and you just sense that the Union, they cannot wait until the full time whistle is blown. And not to mention, I'm pretty sure Union fans are started having PTSD of what happened the last time they were in extra time and in the MLS Cup against LAFC. And thankfully for Union fans, the final whistle did eventually blow. As in the end, the Union barely just able to hold on to the aggregate leads and tie this game up at 3 apiece. But the shots of this one, 19 shots compared to the 16 that Saprissa had. 7 shots on goal for the 8 that the Union has. Both teams had 4 shots off target. 6 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Saprissa had. And possession-wise, 54% possession compared to the 46% possession that Saprissa has in this game. And like I said, the Union, by the skin of their teeth, able to move on into the next round. Obviously, they need to play better. Compared to what we saw in this game and even in this two-legged affair because playing against Pachuca and Pachuca isn't as known as one of the more dominant team in Liga MX as we saw a couple of years ago. They're still a Liga MX team, and that's always going to be a challenge because again it hasn't been pretty in terms of how the Union have been playing in their first couple of games, and we'll see whether or not if they can get their acts together, especially on the defensive front too, because their defense has been pretty bad in the first 3 games of their competitive, and that of course includes that 2-2 draw against the Chicago Fire. And then finally, moving on to the last game we're going to talk about is the Houston Dynamo versus St. Louis City. So as I mentioned, this was the game where the away goal rule was actually in effect as Houston, knowing that they only need a goal in this one to move on into the next round. They did exactly that, and this is where obviously we'll have the debate of whether or not CONCACAF should abandon the away goal rule, and that St. Louis fan will be feeling that yeah they should have done so because this one was definitely a tightly contested game, though it was kind of mostly dominated by the Houston Dynamo. And as I mentioned, didn't know what happened in the first 28 minutes of this game because FS2 was still showing the Union and Saprissa game as it head to extra time. But by the time this game was on FS2, Smith had a shot that was deflected but missed wide before Mikael heads it high from close range. And at least from what I've seen is that it looks like Houston was pushing hard to trying to get the lead, and they were dominating the game. There was a shout for a penalty not given to the Dynamo before Berkey would deny Gregush, but it fell right to Kvestik, and he had a chance to tap it in, but credit to Roman Berkey with some cat-like reflexes to get up and denied him there. And there was no doubt that the Dynamo were pounding on the door. But Roman Berkey, how many times we have seen it last season, and this is the reason why he won Goalkeeper of the Year last season, just simply bailing out the St. Louis team time and time again. And it seems like he's doing it again, and it feels like St. Louis definitely have wrote that storm that Houston was putting, because there was not much chances that was created in the last 10 minutes of this game. I wrote in the first 10 minutes. It's actually the last 10 minutes of the first half. But we do head to halftime with the score still scoreless between the Dynamo and St. Louis. In the second half, the Dynamo once again on the front foot as they were chasing for the lead, though Darren had a chance in the 55th minute as he was in on goal, but it was crucially blocked by Bartlow. St. Louis did not have a lot of chances in this one. But in the 60th minute, the pressure finally paid off, as in the 60th minute, the Dynamo got that crucial lead to take the advantage off of the away goal rule, and it actually comes from an unlikely source, as Eric Savichenko would score his first career goal for the Houston Dynamo from Steris to make it 1-0 in favor of the Dynamo. So what a moment for you to score your first goal for the Dynamo in such a crucial game like that. And also, not every day we see that two defenders basically combining in terms of the goal and assist, and especially two defenders that are not combining in terms of the goal and assist chart, mainly because one defender decided to flick to another defender and flicked it in. This was just simply Steris sets it up to Sevchenko, and again, for a defender, that was actually a great shot there from Eric Sevchenko. You would never have realized that that was his first career goal for the Houston Dynamo. But yeah, most importantly, that was the goal that Houston been looking for a long time, to try to take the away goal ruin lead heading into the final 30 minutes. And in the 62nd minute, Klaus did look to respond, but he puts that one wide in the 62nd minute. Joe Klaus has not been very effective in the first couple of games, and this is not a big surprise considering that he wasn't really that effective even after he coming off of that injury. Now, part of that has to do with the fact that they've been playing him as a false nine position, and I don't think that seems like it's working well for and get the best of Joe Claus in that spot. But yeah, he's been really struggling, and this is definitely concerning if you're if you're St. Louis City. And I think it's even more concerning the fact that what we saw in the last 30 minutes of this game is kind of what we thought that is could be a huge problem for St. Louis this season, which is this is a team that doesn't know how to break down a low block, because while they were getting a lot of possession in the final 30 minutes, Houston not only doing a good job defending St. Louis with their low block, but St. Louis just had no ideas how to cut through that low block. And this is kind of what I think every team is going to do when they face against St. Louis City. They're going to sit in that low block. They're going to give St. Louis all the possession, and they're going to ask them, can you break us down? Because more time or not, we have not seen St. Louis been doing a good job in terms of breaking teams down on a low block, and that's also kind of one of the downfall in terms of the energy drink soccer, where energy drink soccer means that you're supposed to win possession high up the field and you create from them. It doesn't say anything about what happened when you don't have to win high up or possession high up the pitch, and you're giving most of the possession. And that we also seen, this is also where why we see sometimes the Red Bulls struggle in terms of creating chances, because other team, when they play the Red Bulls, they play kind of the same style, and the Red Bulls kind of struggle to create chances because they don't have those different maker to break the lines. And I would think Leuven was that guy to do so, but so far Edouard Leuven has had a bit of a rough start to his time, and not to mention he actually didn't came into this game until the 70th minute, which is kind of odd in the case Bradley Carnell, because this is still a pretty important second in leg, and this two-leg affair is far from being decided. No, in the 87th minute, Klaus would had a looping volley that just missed wide there. I mean, that was kind of an ambitious looping volley shot that actually just missed wide in the 87th minute. But then in the second minute of stoppage time, Gabe Segal, who scored the only goal for the Dynamo in the last game, had a chance to seal it, but he was denied by Berkey in the second minute of stoppage time. But still, in the end, the Dynamo, they were able to win 1-0 in this one, and most importantly, they were able to tie up the aggregate score and get that away goal rule, because St. Louis didn't score a goal in this one. And again, St. Louis fans will be mad because of the outdated away goal rule, and this is where we can definitely have the debate about the outdated away goal rule. But I'll just say that's another debate for another day. But the shots in this one, 13 shots for the 5 that St. Louis had, 3 shots on goal for the 5 that the Dynamo has, 2 shots off target for the 1 that St. Louis had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 5 that the Dynamo has, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that St. Louis has in this game. With this win, Dynamo, I forget who exactly they're going to be playing in the second round, but for St. Louis City, again, there's got to be some concern after this game, and really maybe some concern even with their last game as well, where they didn't play well at home against RSL either, and that the concern, the fact that they can't break teams down when they decided to be the protagonist and have the possession and trying to break down low block. That is going to be something that they have to figure out, because if they don't figure that out, they're going to be in serious trouble this season with the lack of production that they've been getting on the goal scoring department and the creative department compared to what we've seen with St. Louis when they came into the league. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at these free games that happened yesterday in terms of MLS team involving in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and really the only 3 games that we seen yesterday in the second leg of the first round. We get 2 more games later tonight before we have 1 more game on Thursday involving New England and Independente. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.